The Jags haven't done right by Trevor Lawrence. I'll tell you why I say that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, good people? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day, and we always thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where you can find us at the Locked On Jaguars YouTube page for free. That's right. Just hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and then make sure you tap in on that bell so you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. And wherever you get your audio podcast, make sure you tap into that location as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us every single day, and you could be an everydayer too if you join us every single day. And I do a lot of shout outs too. I love when people run into me and say, I'm an everydayer, dog. That means I really know you listen to this show, right? For you to say that. All right, here's what we're going to go through. The Jags, I don't think they've done right by Trevor Lawrence. I'll tell you exactly why I have come to the conclusion that they have not done right by Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to also tell you where they've fallen short. Segment 2, Will talked about they need to protect him. And in segment 3, they need to give him weapons. All right, so this is the part where I have to preface this by saying, I know the second somebody sees this, what they're going to say is, Wig, you're wrong. They've tried. They drafted Anton Harrison. They drafted Luke Fortner. They signed Brandon Sheriff. That's tackle, center, guard. They traded for and re-signed Ezra Cleveland. They drafted Walker Little, and they re-signed Cam Robinson. That's the offensive line. Then I'll hear people say they traded for Calvin Ridley. They signed Zay Jones. They signed Christian Kirk. They drafted Parker Washington. And they drafted his buddy from college, Travis Etienne. And then they drafted Tank. And then they also drafted Brenton Strange. Those are all facts. I didn't say they didn't try. I said they didn't do right by him. There's a difference. Not trying means you just didn't draft people or you didn't use any resources. That's not what I said. What I said is they haven't done right by Trevor Lawrence. And they haven't been adequate enough at doing right for Trevor Lawrence. Trying and doing are two different things. The thing is they're depending on Trent Baalke to do what I don't think he can do very well. That is draft, develop. You got to lose your ego, man. You got to just get rid of it. You have to do whatever it takes, even if it's overpaying, to take care of Trevor Lawrence. That should have started with Jawan Taylor. And I know everybody's going to say, wait, he sucks. He ain't sucking the playoffs. Did you see Nick Bosa in the Super Bowl? Did you see all those other people that they went through to get to the Super Bowl? Baltimore. All of those teams. They paid him to do what he did in the playoffs. They probably overpaid him about $5 million per year on average. They gave him a 4-year deal for $20 million with 60 guaranteed. I think the Jaguars are around 4 years, $60 million with maybe 40 guaranteed, which comes out over 4 years to be a $20 million difference. Don't quote me on those numbers, especially what the Jags offered, but I heard the Jags made a very, very competitive offer. but the Chiefs went above and beyond. Why did they go above and beyond? Because keeping their franchise quarterback upright as much as possible is the top priority. That even took priority over a receiver, one of the greatest receivers in the game. It was a priority. They managed to do it. They have a very good offensive line, even if you count the Smith guy who ain't going to be there this year. And I am including Jawan Taylor in that. But even if you want to take him out, their center guard with Thuney on one side, Smith on the other, and of course we know about the center. And the center and the right guard are on rookie deals. Thuney's an all-pro. Their center is as good as it gets. It is as good as it gets. The interior. And in Jacksonville right now, center is about as bad as it gets. So they failed. They have absolutely failed. When Trevor Lawrence was drafted, I said they need to insulate him. Off the field with the press, instead of having him out all in front, I wanted him to be a quarterback. I wanted them to use as much and as many resources as they could to make sure they had the offensive line that he was protected. They've tried. They failed. I haven't gone in on them for lack of effort. I've gone in on them, mainly Trent Baalke, for an effort that falls short. That's not good enough. It wouldn't surprise me that if Trevor has another rough year and they are quote unquote working on a contract extension, that if he has another rough year where he's beaten up and he has to run around and do all of these things, that at some point he says, I think it's time for me to make a change. And it won't be received the same way as Jalen Ramsey, who did the exact same thing for almost the exact same reasons, because the Jaguars were not serious about building a contender again after they had gotten there in 2017. And they had no interest in making, no matter what Shad Khan says, they had no interest in making Jalen Ramsey I remember after it all happened, when Jalen wanted to trade, Shad said, well, I'll make him the highest paid corner in the league. Lie. You had a chance to do that in spring training. I mean, not spring training, this ain't baseball. In training camp. And you told him no. And maybe Shad wasn't the one that told Jalen no, but Tom Coughlin did. And he was the highest ranking football operations guy. So that's like Shad telling him no. And by that time, Shad was doing damage control. This situation, on the other hand, will probably be received a tad differently from fans and by fans because of the fact that they will understand that Trevor Lawrence has not been given everything he needs to be given in order to be successful. It's going to be a tale of two things. Whether or not they protect him properly, it's really three things. Whether or not they coach him properly, but that's a whole nother deal, because I know everybody wanted me to bring up Press Taylor. They always want me to slam Press Taylor. Hopefully some videos that you see out there now and some information that we all put out about how they've actually gone about their business of play calling the last 2 years. And a reliable source told me that they have a 15-play script and where Doug calls the plays, that him and Press work on it together. And then usually after that, Doug gives it away. And he did it both years. So there was no difference from year one to year two, with the exception is that he told everybody how they were operating. He didn't even talk about the first 15 plays, but he said Press is going to call plays. Well, Press called plays the year before that too, after the first 15. And everybody knows it, who's close to the team. And fans don't want to believe it because it goes against the narrative, because fans want to blame something and somebody. What plays could Press Taylor have called that's going to protect Trevor Lawrence and the rest of that team from Luke Fortner and his foolishness? I'll wait. None. They can't run up the middle. Everything was to the outside and everything was quick. Do you know why they were doing that? They were doing that because they can't protect that kid. The reason why, excuse me, Nick Bosa said, take his first read away and we're going to get him. Everybody attributed that to Trevor not being able to read defenses. Not true. They couldn't protect him. And that's what we're going to talk about. The audacity to not do any and everything, including overpay, to make sure that your quarterback stays upright and has a security team around him, falls flatly on the personnel department, which is headed by Trent Baalke. And they got the nerve to want to run it back. And that's the thing. And that's why I don't get it and I don't understand and I never will, because the priority is to make sure he's safe and sound, not that you're right about certain people. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in just a second here in segment 2 on Locked On Jaguars. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to the IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good. April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer. Thank you for joining us here again for segment 2 of Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen. Got another listen for you, and that is because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Hopefully this is a fire podcast in your opinion. I do the best I can to try to give you the pertinent information. Let's talk security. Another one of my expertise from my days in the military and then after. It is important to protect the asset. The resource that's being protected here is 6'6", 225-pound quarterback out of Clemson, Trevor Lawrence. And the Jaguars have not done a really, really good job of keeping their quarterback upright so far. They've tried. I mentioned in the first segment all of the acquisitions that they've made. And at this point, they can talk all day about guys not being healthy and playing together because your best ability is your availability. And if guys aren't available, it doesn't matter. They have spoken about the fact that their players on both lines of scrimmage are not big, strong, and physical enough. That in and of itself is fireable. Why aren't your players big, strong, and physical? The same person that's required to pick those players has said guys are just born big and strong. So nothing has been done improperly when it comes to strength and conditioning. Newsflash, those guys that they're going to get stronger is going to be in the offseason. All they do during the season is maintenance and upkeep. Ain't nobody in there lifting 500 pounds during the season. It ain't going to happen because they'll get hurt. They don't want them to get injured and they're trying to do that type of stuff. So the practice schedule and the games is enough stress on their body that you don't want them going crazy in the weight. So that means if guys are born strong and physicality is something, is a trait that you recognize while they're still in college before they're picked, that they have adequately picked enough guys that are big and strong. Now, if you say they're not big and strong because they're not, all of the guys aren't here, well, that means your depth is not big and strong either. It's not that hard, I don't believe, to find 8 capable offensive linemen at the very least to be physical. Because physicality is only a part of it. You still need technique and you need quickness and all of that stuff. But it's not very hard to find big, physical, strong football players to play offensive line. So why has that not been a priority? Even if you got to overpay, if you got to cut bait with some of the guys, but they restructured Brandon Sheriff's contract. He's going to stay. And then you got people posting that he was wherever he was in pass blocking. That ain't got nothing to do with him being big and strong and moving people in the running game. And Ezra Cleveland, you like his upside. He's a nice little piece, but they just gave him a 3-year, $29 million deal. And he's not big and strong. I think Cam is big and strong. I think Anton Harrison is a future star. So we're talking about those guys in the interior. And that leads us to Luke Fortner. They keep saying that they believe in him and they're going to help him. And they realize, and they're saying all the right things they're supposed to be saying about that player. They don't supposed to sit here and trash that dude in front of us. Because if you still want him to turn out to be something, then you got to talk him up like that. But with the team that has so many needs, I find it very hard to believe that you go into the draft and use a first-round pick on a center when you have so many other things that you need. They've got rid of the entire coaching staff on defense. So basically they need guys that can play in the scheme. And Ryan Nielsen has said he's going to fit the scheme around the players, not going to try to force players to play a scheme. But you do get the idea, that there's a certain type of player they need. There's certain players and depth and size and speed requirements that they have on defense that they're going to start changing around and upgrading a little bit to at some point eventually get to where they ideally want to be for Ryan Nielsen. Even if Ryan Nielsen gets a head coaching job, it'll already be in place. And of course, he'll have a disciple somewhere around the league, and you can find somebody that plays just that same way. Because by then, it'll be established what your identity is on defense. It just amazes me that they haven't gone above and beyond, that they didn't do whatever it required. Could you imagine if they had let Cam Robinson go, move Anton Harrison to left tackle where he played in college, and kept Juwan Taylor? What happened with Juwan Taylor is just like what happened with Josh Allen. They didn't make a decision on him before they absolutely had to, and they let him have the best season of his career in a contract year, and they got outbid. They may get outbid by a team for Calvin Ridley. They didn't redo Josh early. They claim, well, rumor has it that they claim that they tried it. It was Josh's side. That's not what I heard. I didn't hear he gambled on himself. He gambled on himself because he had no choice. There was no offer. Not a serious one anyway, because if they'd have offered him serious money, he would have taken it. You can argue that he didn't deserve that offer. That's fine. Now they franchise tag him. Using that tag doesn't allow them to have leverage with Calvin Ridley. And now they got to work out a long-term deal with him, free up some more salary cap space if they're going to be available to go out and do some things in free agency. Sheriff and Ledbetter today were re-signed. Ledbetter is a defensive lineman who is going to provide them some depth. I like that. I like that signing. But they're literally retaining their own guys and running it back even though they're saying different things than they said last year. Last year, they were like, we like our team. We're a draft and develop team. So they're kind of doing that this year, retaining their own guys, which functionally sounds like the right thing to do because that's the way you're supposed to do it. The problem is I don't trust that the guys that they're retaining are very good, and the offers and the contracts they're giving them suggest that. They're paying them enough money that those guys aren't going to be backups, they're going to be starters, but they're not paying them a whole bunch of money as if they have a whole bunch of confidence that they're going to be stars. If Ezra Cleveland turns out to be a Pro Bowler or a fringe type Pro Bowl player, he's going to be the most underpaid guard in the league who has that type of standing. If Sheriff has another great year, he's going to be underpaid. You think that bodes good for Jacksonville? It does, but it also tells you what Jacksonville thinks about those players. Trevor Lawrence needed a wide receiver a couple of years ago, and most people thought that they overpaid people around the league. Everybody was like, they gave too much money for Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. It turns out that those guys actually lived up to those contracts, but they still weren't good enough, so the Jaguars had to go get Calvin Ridley. So they have tried to give weapons. In the third and final segment, I'll tell you why that try still isn't good enough. And tight end. I'll get to it in the third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. But I first must tell you about our sponsor for today, and that is the Game Time app. Have you ever procrastinated to the point where you waited too late to buy tickets? I have. And people tell you stuff like, your lack of planning is not my emergency. You will never hear no nonsense like that at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry about when you buy tickets to your next event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find, and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Not just games, concerts too, comedy shows. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Third, final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Jags need to do better for Trevor Lawrence. They've tried. They just haven't done it. Because I know somebody's going to go, man, they tried. I'm talking about what they tried to do. I'm talking about what they did, because what they tried to do and failed to do is a direct reflection of the job that the general manager has not done. Protect him and provide weapons. I just named before we talked about our sponsor Game Time. Before that, I named some guys that the Jaguars did, even the tight ends and the wide receiver. But the irony here is this. They've also drafted a lot of defensive linemen. First round pick for Trayvon, first overall pick, franchise tag Josh Allen, extended Roy Robinson Harris, extended Devon Hamilton. And the only one of those that has a little bit of a mulligan is Devon Hamilton, because he didn't have an injury, he had an illness that affected his play last year. Let's just assume he comes back. There's still a need for edge rush depth, and there's still a need for interior defensive line play. All of those things are in play in the draft, allegedly. So the fact that they've tried and failed does not give a break to the people who are responsible for making sure that this team is weaponized and can protect itself from the other weapons that are going to be running at your quarterback every single week. They also still need a wide receiver. With all of those things I just said that they did, there's talk that they may take a wide receiver in the first round or two. So trying doesn't do any good. Now, they're going to keep trying. Fine. And I actually respect the fact that Trent Baalke sticks to his guns. But I asked the question yesterday, is it stubborn or is it patience? I think it's more on the stubborn side. I think if he goes down, he's going to go down blazing his way, and I ain't got nothing but respect for that. I'm dead serious. I am not being my problem isn't with the fact that he's going to stick to his guns. My problem is he got BB guns and 22s when he needs a bazooka and an M16 to be dealing with Patrick Mahomes. That's the issue. He needs a banana clip. You ain't going to win. What's that movie, Harlem Nights, when they're shooting and shooting and shooting? And shout out to people that are about gun safety. This is just an analogy, so just think about it like a movie. I'm not talking about actual guns here. Harlem Nights, Arsenio Hall is shooting at Eddie Murphy, and it's two of them that's shooting these Tommy guns, and all of a sudden this dude goes pop. And at some point, Arsenio takes his hat off and tell him, stop shooting that little M&F. That thing ain't going to hurt nobody. Well, that's Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke has that little gun. Pop. You can't do that when you're playing against these other teams. And this conference is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The division is getting stronger. They had 3 rookie quarterbacks in this division last year. You were coming off of a championship, a division championship the year before, and you actually did not win the division. You started out 8-3 and ended up 9-8. But the defensive coaches all got fired. But everybody says that Trevor Lawrence needs to be protected and he needs weapons. Folks want linemen and wide receivers more than they want anything. So if that's the case, and I like Ryan Nielsen, but it seems like to me, even though you may have upgraded with the coordinator, that you probably scapegoated the wrong people. Let's just cut to it. Trent Baalke should have been the one sent packing, because he's the culprit. He's the guy that has failed to protect Trevor Lawrence with a security force and that has failed to weaponize him properly. They could possibly lose Calvin Ridley, and it looks more likely that they will, unless they have some deal worked out or really wants to play here in Jacksonville. I think they're going to get outbid on the market by teams that want a wide receiver. Even though this is a wide receiver draft that is as good as it's been in a long time, there's some contenders that want right now. They don't want a guy. They don't want a young man that's going to take a little while and have to learn. Like Rashee Rice, as good as he was, it took Rashee Rice a few minutes and a few plays. They almost didn't have the receiver core for Kansas City got talked about all season long. And then they get in the playoffs in a game where it's 25 below zero and catch everything in sight with their hands. When it mattered most, that's when they showed up. Just same with Juwan Taylor. You need ballers. You need guys that when it matters most, they're going to play their lights out best football that they can play. And that best has to be good enough. That's that bazooka I'm talking about, and not the pop little pistol. When they got Trevor Lawrence, I said this. It is going to be critically important that they do everything and provide every single resource they have to make sure they protect him and that he is allowed to let that big arm go, because he has receivers. They have done an awful job of protecting their number one resource. He's like the president of his team, man, and you got to put Secret Service agents around him that special forces trained that can take on all the stuff that's going to come, and they just haven't done it. They just have not. They failed. If they don't extend him before next season starts and they get off to a slow start and he's out there getting hurt and running for his life again and playing hurt and not telling the coaches because he wants to win so bad, somebody might advise Trevor that he needs to be somewhere else. And you as fans, I know you think you don't have any power, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do if that happens? What are you going to do if he realizes this organization has failed him and he's had enough? Hopefully it won't get to that point, but the way it's heading, that's exactly what's going to happen. I hope for you it doesn't happen. One thing I do hope you do is have a great weekend. Remember, time changes. I don't know if it goes up or back. I don't know if we're losing an hour or gaining an hour. I don't really stay. I'm just going to wake up and whatever my clock says, that's what I'm going with, right? I don't sleep that much anyway. I'm sleepy now, if y'all can't tell. Come back here Monday, though, and I'll be here, whether I'm sleepy or not and what time of day it is. Come back here Monday. Check out Locked On NFL, too. I did today's show with Ross Jackson, and make sure you also check out Locked On Sports Today. Take care of each other. Have a great weekend. And hopefully y'all ain't mad at me for giving y'all this news, but reality is real. You can be mad at me about telling you your truth, but I'd rather you be mad at me for telling you the truth than be glad that I told you a lie. Till next time, take care from Locked On Jaguars.